Welcome to our Vegan Education Adelaide podcast. I'm Steph and this is Mark, back with another episode. Haven't done one in a few weeks, I think, but it's okay. We're back today and we'll be having a bit of a discussion about mental health as a vegan. So, vegans' mental health, which hopefully I don't know, I have some interesting things to say, seeing that I'm a psychologist. But yeah, that's the topic of discussion for today. But before we jump into it, I will get Mark here to tell us who this episode is dedicated to.
Yeah, so this episode is dedicated to Tintin and Caspian. They are rescue lambs from Freedom Hill. And I think this is a good photo to increase our mental health because they're very, very cute. Yeah, I think it's what we've been saying lately, just in our personal lives, is like it's amazing when you see animals interact and play and like dote on each other, and just to think that people think that animals are robots or something. Like it's just like a clear sign of sentience and like interests and feelings, emotions.
Yeah, that's like a good thing to replenish mental health is to like see I guess the beautiful videos, like the videos that highlight the beauty in animal life and in nature and that kind of thing. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. So the two little lambs at Freedom Hill Sanctuary, that's who this episode is dedicated to. Thanks, Mark. So yeah, to kick off the discussion, I guess I just wanted to really, there's not as usual, there's not a very clear structure for today, but that's all right. We'll just have a discussion. It's just two vegans talking about stuff. But yeah, I guess I just wanted to start with maybe the things that can weigh heavily on our mental health and I guess maybe the unique challenges of being a vegan a vegan that cares deeply about animals. We're not talking about people that call themselves vegan purely from like a health food point of view. We're talking about ethical vegans and the unique challenges that they face, and then maybe we can talk about what can people do to take care of their mental health. What can vegans do to take care of their mental health, and some things to just be aware of. So I think as vegans, we face a bit of a unique situation because we're faced with the suffering of animals. We've opened our eyes up to the sentience of animals and the suffering of animals. So we are aware that animals are thinking, feeling beings who are really, in that regard, not unlike us. And so we can have that kind of empathy for them, that just like us, they have emotions, they have interests, they have wants and needs and desires. They can feel pain, they can suffer physically, like physical pain, and emotional pain too. So I think all ethical vegans really are aware of these facts. And so and I guess that's really one of the main reasons why we would consider being vegan in the first place, is if you're aware of these things, you see that causing unnecessary suffering to animals is wrong, and so you choose to be vegan. So we really, I guess, are quite empathetic to the suffering of animals, but then also we've realized that it's not necessary to cause that suffering, or that participating in their exploitation, the exploitation of animals, is something that we can reject and try our best to not participate in and to avoid. And that is possible. Like there's lots of ways that we can avoid animal exploitation, whether it's in the food industry, the clothing industry, entertainment industries, even cosmetic industries. There's so many different ways we use animals, but there's so many different ways we can avoid using them too. So, given that we have opened our eyes up to those facts, the sentience of animals, and that it's wrong to exploit them, and that we can, in lots of different ways, do our best to avoid exploiting them, then one thing I think that can impact heavily on our mental health is seeing everyone else, seemingly, well, everyone else that's not vegan, the vast majority of people, not doing the same, willingly exploiting animals, causing suffering and death when there's an alternative option. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that weighs heavily on us, is that frustration of, why can't people see what I see? Why can't other people, recognize that what they're doing is simply wrong and unnecessary? And why can't they just choose not to? Like, I understand that for various people there can be some barriers, and it's I guess not the easiest thing to change your behaviors, long-standing behaviors, and the foods you eat and all of that. But when, I think the experience of a lot of vegans is that when they make that connection and they start thinking about animal sentience, and they hear about this thing called veganism that they can do, they just make it happen. And it's not the hardest thing in the world to do. It's maybe a little bit tricky at first. It takes a little bit of time and effort, but it's worth it. And when you think about what the animals are going through, it's really not that hard. So yeah, I think that's the thing that probably weighs most heavily, I suppose, on me, is that frustration of, why aren't other people doing the same,
Yeah.
And the people in my circles that I've tried to kind of educate about the issue, and people that I love and everything, and still just watching them continue exploiting animals, eating their flesh, wearing their skin, or going to see animals in entertainment, in zoos and things like that. And it just kind of eats away at you on the inside. It's like a stab in the heart, It's like, why aren't they just making the change? They've seen me do it. They know it's possible. They've seen other vegans do it. Why are they choosing not to? That's definitely something that majorly impacts my mental health, as well as just thinking about all the suffering of animals and imagining, what they're going through, and that billions, it happens to billions, if not trillions of them every year.
Do you think that due to the way that we both kind of went vegan, it was pretty overnight, you were told by a friend about it and you just made that connection, kind of made that decision to go vegan almost immediately? And when I had that light bulb moment, I went home and chucked out everything from my fridge and was just vegan overnight. Do you think because we went vegan so quickly, it's even more frustrating to see other people who know about it? It's easier now than it was 10 years ago, and then they still refuse to do that. It's just mind-boggling to us.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, even if so for me, from when I first learnt about veganism, and in my mind, it clicked, animals are suffering. They don't need to suffer. I can try and avoid it. And I made the decision to be vegan. It took me a few months to really, I think I was 17 at the time, living at home and stuff. It took me a few months to actually implement the changes in my diet and all of that. But the decision was there pretty much straight away. When I made that connection, I decided, yeah, that makes sense. It's wrong. I shouldn't be causing this unnecessary harm and suffering to animals if I don't have to. And the decision was there. And even if it takes a little bit of time, like, I don't think that's a good thing. Obviously, I was still exploiting animals in that time that it took. But yeah, I think that's the frustrating thing. Like, why, like, just trying to understand from a psychological point of view, why do other people not make that connection? Why don't they feel driven to just make that change? Like, I mean, I'm sure there's lots of factors, but it's very frustrating because of our experience. Like you said, it was a fairly easy decision to make and fairly easy thing to do. Why can't other people just do that?
Yeah, maybe part of it. I don't know exactly what your like mental state was when you know made that connection and started to change those behaviors. But did you have like quite a holistic view of like why did you go vegan? Was it like against animal cruelty, the like buzzword cruelty?
Um, yeah, probably at the beginning it was it was more to do with just thinking about, I don't want to kill animals. I don't want to be like responsible for like participating in the killing of animals and suffering of animals if that's unnecessary, and I could just be vegan. Like, that's, I think, from back then, trying to remember 13 years ago, I think that's pretty much what it started from.
Yeah. I'm just wondering like this whole rhetoric around like reducing suffering is a lot of people can not commit to being vegan but still kind of reduce suffering where they seem where it's kind of very easy for them without actually like adopting the label or like the hardline stance. Like for me when I went vegan it was because like I worked out I couldn't respect someone and use them. So it was like there's pretty hardline ideology that I couldn't really get around. Like
Yeah.
even in the cases where it wasn't like extreme cruelty or like overt cruelty, like my framework when I went vegan was, I guess, structurally sound in the sense that I had to take I'm either vegan or I'm not. Like it had to be that like they were polar opposites to each other. There was none of this in between. So I'm wondering if like when we talk to people or like the rhetoric around veganism nowadays or like what's popular is like people are able to adopt some of the like anti-cruelty behaviors without actually taking a stance against the fundamental problem with animal slavery. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess that's kind of, yeah, an interesting point, but probably a whole nother conversation in itself. I guess when I say, why don't other people do the same, and that's very frustrating to vegans, like thinking about, why can't other people see what I see and why can't they just stop? I guess in this scenario, we don't have to go into all the whys, but that's just like from a mental health perspective, like that feeling that vegans experience is very valid, I think,
Mhm.
and that's something that can definitely impact mental health. Another thing, I guess, I guess the things that might impact mental health are variations of that too, just being reminded that anything that's a reminder that the world's not vegan, people just carelessly eat animals, people that you otherwise love and respect just carelessly eat animals. So for me, it's like if I'm at work and my colleagues, like we're on our lunch break or something, and people are literally eating dead animals right in front of me, and not having a care in the world about it. Or even sometimes they talk about how much they love chicken flesh. Or there was a conversation, a couple months ago about, people just talking about eating kangaroos and stuff like that, like just so casually. And that stuff like boils my blood. And that definitely has a impact on my mental health, and also I think my relationship with people as well. Like, it makes me not want to be around them, makes me kind of respect them less. So it's, it makes me feel angry and sad. And this is like all in my lunch break, So yeah, I think vegans, it's really tough. Like just trying to go about your day, just trying to do the best you can, going about your day, not using animals, and then constantly being reminded by the world around you that a lot of people seem to not give a shit about animals. It could even be driving to work, I sent Mark like a picture I took of a sign.
Not while you're driving, I hope.
I was stopped at a stoplight. Quickly just snapped it. But anyway, at I think it was Hungry Jack's or something like that, and it had like a new thing or something that they're bringing back, like chicken, like fries. So they're like, it's chicken flesh in the shape of potato fries. But the packaging of it had like a cartoon chicken face, and it had a speech bubble like "I'm back," and just it's a shit like that. And I just think, oh yeah, that's it. And the ad had a cartoon, had a speech bubble saying like "I'm back," and that would just trigger me. I'll just feel very angry, and I think like that is literal psychopath behavior. Like when they have, like this cartoon animal on the box and the dead body inside. Like it's just bizarre to me. Like once you start seeing the world that way, in ads and stuff, when they use cartoon animals to like promote selling their dead bodies, it's just so fucked up and psychopathic. And so I'll see something like that driving to work, and immediately my day is like, it's not that my day is ruined, but it's like, wow, great start to the day. Now I'm angry.
Yeah.
You're
so like shaken back into reality kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like almost found a way to be a little bit oblivious to it all, because we're living like right in the middle of it, like in the epicenter of it. And then we're kind of just shaken back into reality and like, holy crap.
Yeah. And that's
possible.
And that's why I think that like the experience of vegans in this regard is kind of unique, because vegans now, like we're living in a world where it is widely acceptable to abuse, use, and kill animals in so many different ways. And it's very normal and it's accepted by the majority.
Not only accepted, but like praised.
Yeah, praised, promoted, like it's, yeah, exactly.
Celebrated.
Yeah. It's not hidden at all, as you can see from that ad. Like it's psychopathic, in my opinion, but it's the norm, and that in itself, I think, can just drive you crazy, whereas I can't think of any. I mean, there probably are a lot of other issues relating to humans that are normal and accepted, but clearly morally wrong. But I suppose for the most part, I think a lot of issues like with humans, even though there's a lot of wrong, horrible, immoral stuff that happens, it still kind of seems like usually the majority realize it.
Yeah, no one's like promoting it.
Yeah, like no one's like happy about it and like actively participating in it, So like
there's not ads to be like, hey, racism is great, let's do this. Like
yeah. Like racism is rampant, but it's still kind of seen as wrong or not, acceptable by the majority in most places anyway. Or even, things like war and other like, human rights violations and stuff. Like it happens, but a lot of people, like it's not celebrated and like, oh, this is so amazing. And, like it seems like most people around, I guess in our circles anyway, most people around us are bothered by it and don't support it, and I think that's the case with a lot of like human issues and human rights violations. Whereas with veganism, the unique thing about it is that it is widely accepted and celebrated, and like everyone around you just participates in it like there's nothing wrong with it. And so,
Mm.
yeah, I think that's kind of a unique challenge that vegans face is just, yeah, it's horrible. It just, yeah, it really eats away at your well-being and your mental health.
And then, as you said, like, yeah, with the Hungry Jack's chips or whatever, like they're literally using the victims to promote like their own slavery, like
And death
their
and
own, yeah,
suffering.
suffering and death. Like that's, yeah.
It's
Like
so
imagine if
bad.
we did that with humans, like you can't even imagine that with humans.
No, no. It's, yeah, it's a very, very specific type of fucked up.
Yeah.
So,
One,
yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say also, it kind of confuses me a little bit when activists talk about if people had to kill animals themselves, then everyone would be vegan and things. But like, I think it's so rampant in the world and so widely accepted that that's not true at all. Like, I think most people would just like be okay with it, like desensitize themselves, be okay with it, just do it.
Yeah.
Like, um, like I was just at the gym. I think I spoke to you the other day. I was just at the gym the other day and just gone about my business. And then on the screen, they had like the cooking channel. And there's just like your everyday people going out and hunting and shooting animals and like skinning them on the cooking channel at like, this was 12 in the afternoon. Like, this is not anything that's hidden. This is like not anything that's, behind closed doors or, yeah, like hidden from the world. This is on 12 o'clock, free to air TV, probably rated PG. Like, it's not even M or MA or anything. Just so normalized
Mm,
in a gym, just like in an everyday public place.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. And an example for me that I can think of is in my job when I'm, talking with clients. It's, I guess it, probably doesn't happen that often, probably not every day, but surprisingly often people will talk about like, yeah, just different ways of using animals. They'll tell me about their trip to the zoo
Yeah.
recently, or um, I literally, like the other week, had someone tell me about how, like, they have chickens in their backyard. And I won't go into details because I don't want to make vegans watching this too triggered. But, you know, one of the chickens wasn't laying as much anymore. And they described to me in detail about how they disposed of this chicken. And, like, I honestly, I was just sitting there in shock. Like, I didn't know what to do. Like, thinking back on it, I wish I'd interrupted and be like, oh, can you just stop? Like, don't tell me this, like, or something. But I was just sitting there like in shock. I didn't know what to say while they were describing this happening. And so just shit like that we have to deal with. Like,
Yeah, see, like that's not a expert person. That's just your everyday run of the mill average Joe.
yeah, yeah.
It's,
And
it's Yeah, I think it's particularly hard for both of our jobs as well. Like you being a therapist, you're kind of in servitude to your clients. So like if they're telling you about unethical things, you have like this other moral duty to like listen and accept their behaviors and like, well, not accept, but like not,
yeah, it's
not be so harsh as like you normally might be able to.
yeah, well, it's really
Just,
tricky because, yeah, like my job, like I'm there to be supporting them with their own well-being and that kind of
mm,
thing. And like most of my clients don't know that I'm vegan because, like, why would I just tell that to them when I'm there to like listen to them and
mm,
support them? And it's not really necessary most of the time for me to tell them that I'm vegan. There've been a couple of clients that I've said that I'm vegan, but only if it kind of like comes up. I can't even think of, like that has happened, but I can't think of like why it came up. But, sometimes I'll mention it. But yeah, it happens surprisingly often where clients will talk about, I don't know, the meal that they've had and their favorite food and how they cooked it and just random stuff like that. You'd be surprised. But yeah, it like I, come across that a lot. Um, and sometimes I'll pull a face, like I'll kind of be cringing, I guess, like I can't help it, like,
Mm.
and they might see that I'm uncomfortable, but a lot of my clients don't really care that I'm uncomfortable with it, to be honest.
Maybe we need like a little elevator pitch for like being uncomfortable like that. Just be like, hey, I'm not comfortable talking about this. Well, I don't
Mm.
know. Like it's weird though because yeah, your job requires you to be comfortable talking about anything. You're
Yeah,
kind of
kind of.
screwed.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the way I respond to it usually is I just sit there cringing, and then I don't, I guess I try not to say anything that will keep them talking about it. So I'll try and like change the subject or something like that. I suppose that's
Yeah.
really the best I can do. So, but yeah. And apart from vegans living in a world of non-vegans and being constantly triggered by everything around, like everything that non-vegans do around you, the other thing I wanted to talk about that can affect vegans' mental health is social media and media in general being exposed to animal suffering, animal cruelty, graphic stuff, or non-graphic but still emotionally impactful
Yeah.
stuff through media and social media.
Yeah. How do you
I
deal with
think,
that kind of stuff?
yeah, because I think like a lot of vegans follow other vegan pages. Like they might follow vegan activists like Earthling Ed or other people like that. They might follow like Veg News or things like that, um, which like often their content can have some good stuff like tips about doing activism or just street activism or recipes or all sorts of cool stuff. But then also sometimes they might post things that is more aimed at non-vegans. So like they might post videos of graphic stuff about animals, and or like I said, maybe not graphic but still emotionally heavy stuff. So I think because vegans tend to follow those pages, they're getting more, like they're getting exposure to that stuff a lot, even though they don't really need to because they're already vegan. And I don't know what other people believe, but I believe if you're already vegan, like as in you're you're fully vegan, you're not going back, and you're an ethical vegan, you don't need to keep exposing yourself to that stuff. Okay, you know what's happening. You've made the change. There's no reason why you need to kind of torture yourself, like looking at um, looking at graphic stuff or emotionally heavy stuff. But yeah, if you follow pages like that, you can get exposed to it more, I think, than most other people, which is kind of ironic. It's like vegans are the people that need to see that stuff the least, but they're often the people that see that stuff the most because they're following those pages. So that's just something to be aware of, I think, that can affect your mental health
Yeah,
as
it's a
well.
little bit tricky as well because like I consume a lot of vegan media to try and like educate myself how to be a better activist. So it's hard to like yeah screen through that kind of stuff. Like
Yeah.
sometimes you'll be listening to an activist talk about like really good stuff. You're like, oh, I can use that in activism, and then they'll like cut to this like horrendous imagery. You're just like, holy crap, I did not need to see that. Like, yeah, I'm vegan. I'm not the one that needs to be seeing this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so tricky, isn't it? Because, like, yeah, I get that there's a part of you that kind of wants to, like, there's some interesting content there and you
Mm.
kind of want to stay informed or get ideas and that kind of stuff. And then suddenly it's like, bam, you're just hit with this horrible thing you didn't need to see. And then you're just upset. And, but yeah, I think even just, like I said, not necessarily graphic or any kind of imagery, but even just like listening to like people talk about this issue, maybe even people listening to this podcast today. I
This
don't
is
know, like
ironic.
it's bringing back all the triggering stuff and like making, you know, like causing outrage. Like I think that's something that, like, it's not just sadness, it's the frustration, it's outrage, like all that stuff can have a negative impact on your mental health. it's not to say like those are normal emotions, and it's not to say that people should avoid feeling those emotions, but I think that vegans feel those emotions more often and can be like, constantly exposed to things that trigger those emotions of outrage and frustration, sadness, and all of that. So it's just something to kind of that we need to. I think we need to. I guess this is a segue into what we can do about it. I think we need to be aware of it. So noticing for yourself, like, what are the things that are causing you to feel outraged, frustrated, sad, despair, about this issue. And I suppose maybe recognizing your limits, right? So for me, the outrage and frustration and sadness that I get from being exposed to the non-vegan world out there, and whether it's family, friends, colleagues, Hungry Jacks, whatever, that are doing stuff that kind of trigger me, that's kind of enough for me. So I personally try not to. I don't really. I think I might follow a couple of vegan activists online, but I actually don't really consume. Like, I just scroll past. Like, so on my social media, I actually don't consume pretty much any vegan content. So I don't like follow people on Instagram and watch their videos. I don't really watch a lot of YouTube, to be honest, even though we're streaming to YouTube right now, but I don't watch a lot of it myself. Facebook, I don't like look at activists like videos and stuff. So like I don't really consume a lot of vegan media, to be honest, because I've noticed that it can have more harm than good for me and my mental health.
You're like those tech Mongols that don't actually use the tech that they created because they know how bad it is.
Yeah, maybe that's a good analogy.
Yeah,
What
you're a
about you?
creator, not a consumer, because you create vegan content, but you don't really consume it that much.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's literally the case because, like I said, I get triggered enough in my everyday life, like interacting with non-vegans, and I don't want to be constantly reminded when I'm opening my phone. I don't want to constantly be reminded about the plight of animals because, like I said, I care more than like most people I know about animals, and I'm acting on that. Like I'm doing everything I can to avoid it. So I don't need to be constantly reminded about their pain, their suffering, like, yeah.
Yeah. When you're talking about the outrage and those natural emotions that come up, it reminded me of that scene in Eric that we watched, where the gay cop, like it's set in 1980s, obviously when there was a lot of homophobia, the gay cop is just doing his work, and then he hears some other cops use a homophobic slur, and he just yells out what the fuck did you say or something, and then he realizes that I don't think anybody knows that he's gay, and they're just like, what? And he just slinkies back to doing what he's doing. But it's just that I guess the reality of the world, and you're just so different from everybody else, and it's just
Mm.
sometimes the rage just explodes.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I'm pretty in my job. Like, I don't think I could do the job I do without being like pretty in control of like myself. I'm very, 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 very good at controlling, you know, my if I feel angry or anything. Like I never snap at people kind of thing. Well, maybe not never, but maybe at home
Don't
in my
make any
safe,
promises.
maybe at home in my safe environment, but like with other people, I don't generally tend to like snap or be rude or anything. But it means that it kind of boils inside, and that's not healthy either. But
Yeah.
yeah, but
Generally, I've made other people snap, not myself. You just drop a truth bomb. Like non-vegans cannot handle truth bombs.
yeah.
I remember
Mm.
with the horse racing, the Adelaide Cup or whatever, and then one of my colleagues was like, "Oh yeah, I'm against the Adelaide Cup, this particular horse race or something like that." And they were like, "Oh, you're against it too, aren't you, Mark?" And I was like, well, actually, not for the same reasons, but yes, I'm against it. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, oh, I'm against like, animal slavery kind of thing. And they were like, oh, like they got to like frustrated and like knickers in a twist or whatever expression you want to use.
You're very good at triggering non-vegans, which is fair enough because like the amount that we get triggered by them, like they can take a bit of it.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Like vegans are so resilient. Like we've learned to live in this world that is like upside down. And then when you see non-vegans, they get triggered at the drop of a hat.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think because like our behavior is not being called into question. Like we're triggered because we're doing the right thing, but we live in the shitty world. But then like non-vegans, I think maybe there's a bit of they realize that their behavior is shitty. So it's like it's triggering because their behavior is being called into
Yeah,
question.
it's a different type of triggering. It's more cognitive dissonance for them, I think, whereas for us, it's more like frustration, outrage, and all of that.
And then knowing that we're actually doing what we can to make a difference.
Yeah.
Like I think part of the like good mental health, like we've talked about the negatives, but like the good mental health part of it is we don't feel that cognitive dissonance, right? Like we're in ethical alignment with our like values and behaviors.
True. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. And I guess I didn't really think to talk about that. I thought like today I was going to just talk about things that can negatively impact mental health and what to do about it. But yeah, I guess part of the conversation, it's important to recognize the benefits to mental health that of being a vegan, because you're right. Like, I think it feels good to know that I've made that decision, and it kind of I guess for my own self-esteem and uh, you know confidence in myself, not confidence, I don't know what the word is, but yeah, I guess maybe self-esteem or something like that. But knowing that I made that connection, I made that choice, and I am an empathetic person, and like just knowing that about myself, like that does make me feel good, I suppose. And yeah, knowing that I'm just doing everything I can to be ethical towards animals. Yeah.
Yeah. How good does it feel to not participate in animal slavery? Like we have pulled ourselves out of it by our bootstraps.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, it definitely speaks to our moral values and
moral courage.
Integrity. That's maybe the word I was thinking of. Yeah, integrity, to realize and critical thinking and doing something that is not the norm because you know in your heart that it's the right thing to do. And that it would be very easy for us to have made all the same excuses that many non-vegans make and just not be vegan. It would be so easy. No one would have questioned it. No one would have questioned us if we just stayed.
They would have praised us.
If we just stayed being non-vegan. And but the fact we did it anyway, like, that is a good feeling. And I think that is positive for mental health, knowing that you're kind of, that you have integrity and you're a critical thinker, and you're, not afraid to just stand up for what you think is right. Like, that is a positive thing for sure. And resilient, and
All right, now back to the shit.
So I wanted to talk about things that maybe people can do to try and take care of themselves and support their own mental health, like for vegans. So I think definitely just tuning in to how different things make you feel. So your triggers and in your day-to-day life, what kinds of things are you exposed to, whether it's in person with people around you, whether it's on social media, and just trying to look at how much of it is in your control and whether you feel the need to maybe reduce. So for example, for me at work, I've decided now that I'm not going to eat lunch with my work colleagues. So I actually have worked out with my boss to be able to take a longer lunch break and work slightly later. So I go home in my lunch break, I have my nice vegan meal, I wrap myself in a blanket, and it's kind of like a self-care. It's like an hour of self-care. Lucky I live so close by to work, I can just zip home in 5 minutes and do that. But that's had a positive impact on me, like just no longer eating lunch with my colleagues. And I think it's actually been beneficial for my relationship with them as well, because like, I don't know, just having that little bit of distance. Like before, I was just feeling very negative about it. Like, oh, these people, why are they eating dead animals? Like they know about veganism. I've told them about it. Why do they keep doing it? Like, and they're doing it in front of me so carelessly. Like that used to really trigger me a lot and make me annoyed in the middle of my day when I'm meant to be trying to decompress from like sessions with clients. So it's been positive for my relationship with my colleagues not being around them at lunchtime, to be quite honest. So yeah, and that's been something a change that I've made. Yeah, I mean, also another thing that can kind of like, I guess another thing that can negatively impact my mental health is activism. So like doing activism, again, it's the pros and cons. Like the good conversations with people, it's like awesome, and that can be a positive thing and make you feel good when you have a good conversation with someone. But then sometimes, you know, you get disrespectful people that might walk past and make disrespectful comments to you. Last time, oh, I swear this is just a bit of a segue, but last time we did
Here comes that rage.
that was a shit show. Like that was the worst. I don't know what happened that day. People, maybe it was like full moon or something. People were just going feral. But honestly, like that was a shit show. Like I had someone pick up a pigeon and like shove the pigeon in my face and be like, I'm going to eat this bird or something like that. And I just looked at him and said, why are you holding a pigeon? Like, I think he wants to be let go. And then he just let it go in my face. So that was crazy. And then I had other people, they had gone to the local KFC or something and got some like popcorn chicken. And they were tossing it in the air to each other and like catching it in their mouths right in front of me, like obviously trying to provoke me. And like other people as well, like these other kids that went and sat there just talking really loudly about how much they love eating animals and all that kind of stuff, like just immature shit. But yeah, I feel like that was that.
Why
really
aren't more kids vegan? Like fight back against the power. Aren't kids supposed to be like the liberal, like the
yeah, they're just doing what they're
you know?
they're just doing what their mummy and daddy told them to do.
Yeah, and we should try using that line sometimes, maybe. Like I've heard someone use that. I think it was Sky from Vegan, of course, maybe. That really stuck with me because it's like, yeah, like kids are supposed to rebel against the norm, but when it comes to veganism, they're like they just do what their mummy and daddy tell them.
Yeah. Anyway, that was just a bit of a segue, but that was another thing that for me, that kind of depletes my, like if you think of the cup analogy where you've got a cup of water or a cup of energy or something like that, and there's things that can deplete it or things that take a toll on your mental health, and there's things that can refill it. So yeah, I suppose sometimes doing activism, there's things that deplete it, there's things that increase it. But anyway, I just want to mention that as another thing that in my life can have an impact. So for me, the way I kind of manage that is I've decided that once a month going out to do that, like every 4 weeks going out to do the activism is kind of what I can do at the moment, what I have the energy for at the moment. I do work full time as well. So, I've decided, once a month. And I work full time in quite an emotionally draining job. So I've had to really get good at looking at what depletes my cup, what fills up my cup, and how do I balance those things. So, so I do activism once a month. I don't eat lunch with my colleagues. They're just two things that I do. I don't follow vegan people that much on social media. I really, really limit my consumption of vegan related stuff on social media, because although some of it's good, it can be triggering as well. So that's another thing that I do. All the self-care stuff, like just spending time with, if you are lucky enough to have other vegans in your life that you really get along with, spending plenty of time with them. You know, yeah, being around people that fill up your cup. Any other things that feel like self-care, you know, spending some quiet time. I like playing video games sometimes and just getting out of the real world for a bit and absorbing myself in a video game.
Yeah, it's funny, that balance. Like, I feel like when we didn't do much activism for a while, like that started draining on your mental health too. So it's like, if you don't do anything, that's probably going to affect you. If you take on too much, that's going to affect you. So you've really got to find that balance and like play to your strengths, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keystone likes working out on the heavy bag.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, getting that like physical, like I definitely think that stress and emotions and stuff can kind of like build up in a physical way. And that actually, I don't just think that, but you know, we know that the human brain, the way that it connects to the body, you know, you can build up tension in your body if you're stressed, anxious, that kind of thing. So yeah, letting it all out in a physical way. I do that is another thing I do, actually, yoga. I just came back from the class this morning, and I find that's a really good way to like just move my body, connect to my breath. I'm not like I'm really not like much of like a spiritual type person at all. It might sound like I am, but like I guess working in the field of psychology, I used to actually hate all that stuff, like that was all sounded kind of like not evidence-based, not scientific, like airy-fairy. But the more that I've worked in psychology, the more I've actually realized like the connection between the brain and body, and that breathing, connecting to breath, mindfulness, all that kind of stuff can actually be just really good for the body and the brain. So yeah, I do a bit of that, and I do a strength class on Monday nights. What do you do, Mark, to look after your mental health?
Well, at the moment, I was consuming like way too much vegan content because I commute to work, so I usually have like a YouTube video. I usually listen to Vegan, of course, and then I just screenshot every time there's like a vegan nugget that I want to like write down. So like good quotes or like interesting facts and stuff. But I was finding I was consuming way too much content to actually like keep up with. So this week I haven't consumed anything new, but I've just been every morning like reviewing the things that I have listened to like again and just like typing them out. And I really want to get my thoughts out on paper, kind of thing. So I think that's been helpful. Like there's just so much information out there and so many like thoughts and like so much media content. And I'm just taking a little bit of a break, not like away from it, but just to like understand it better.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
because I still want to like train myself and get better at my own skills. So I guess I'm more like meditating on those things more rather than like consume more and more facts.
Yeah.
I'm trying to like narrow it down, like what are the important things that I need to know.
Yeah. Do you find that, because I know you definitely consume a lot more vegan animal related media compared to me, do you find that you come across a lot of do you come across a lot of kind of triggering stuff, like whether it's imagery or other things?
Mostly it's the Vegan, of course, YouTube channel, Sky, and that is really refreshing because often he's like most of the time he's talking about like vegan, very specific vegan things, but a lot of the times he'll also just talk about other random shit, but with like a vegan perspective, and it almost feels like a vegan radio show and you're like you can just imagine that you're in this vegan world. Like this is just how everybody feels. Like he's got like a little bit of a community going.
Yeah, I've
So
definitely.
it's nice hearing like a vegan's view on just other things as well.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just
I
like
think we've both interacted with Sky a little bit
yeah,
on his channel and stuff. Well, like in the chat, I guess. But
like it would
yeah,
be just like watching or listening to someone go through life through that vegan lens. I think is really like potent.
so that's something that adds to your cup. Watching Sky's channel.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good. Yeah, so I guess everyone's a little bit different in, what fills up their cup, what depletes it. And so I guess, yeah, if I had one main message today, it would just be to tune in to yourself and, for you, people watching this, I mean, what depletes your cup, what fills it up, and just being more aware of, balancing that out, knowing when you need a break from things, not being afraid to make changes. Like I said, for me, like just deciding I'm just not going to eat lunch with my colleagues, and that's just the way it is. And it's actually been okay. It's improved my relationship with them. Also, I guess the thing we haven't really touched on yet is similar thing with family, like, or family that's not vegan. I mean, or just people in general that aren't vegan, like, in your life.
How lucky are we to have family that's vegan? Oh my god, we're so lucky.
Yeah, we're pretty lucky. Yeah. Or even, like even though some of my family is not vegan, we usually meet all together at my parents' house, and they are in their household, well, vegetarian, mostly vegan, but like that we can comfortably go to my parents' house, eat a good vegan meal, not see any dead animals on the table. Like that's pretty lucky, I guess. But yeah, anyway, but yeah, just like monitoring that, and like, yeah, your relationships with family and how often you want to be around them, and yeah, that kind of thing. It's all personal decisions, I suppose. I know everyone's different. Some people it bothers them more than others, but yeah. All right, cool. Well, was there anything else you wanted to add, Mark?
I just had something from before when you were talking about when we were doing activism and the little shits were doing their thing. What helps me with that is just reframing. Maybe it's a bit of lying to myself, but reframing how everyone else sees that and almost imagining that they're doing activism on our behalf. Like if the general public is seeing people be really, really shitty, they might reflect on their own like thoughts and things.
Maybe, yeah. So like
I remember, like talking to a group of people, and one of them was saying some really stupid shit, and then the other ones were like, "Hang on, like that's weird." Like they were almost moving across the scale to like agree with me more than shitty friend or whatever. Like that's how I just framed that in my head. I don't know if it's just a bit lying to myself, I'm a bit naive, but it's like reframing those experiences in the positive.
Yeah. It's a good way to think about it. Just trying to reframe it, like, the idiots that kind of like try to provoke us and act really immature. Well, other people observing can just see that they're the ones that look silly, not us. So yeah, I guess that does help. Yeah, and I get one more thing I might add as well is that I think it's funny, not funny, but like I think because we as well as being vegan,
oh no,
we are also like,
I know where this is going.
We're also like strongly like hardcore radical like abolitionists as well, and there's very clearly, I guess, different schools of thought within the vegan community, and so I feel often like we're a bit of a community of an already very small community.
The rejects of the rejects.
Yeah.
Reject squared.
Yeah. And so I think also that's why that's why I try to limit my media consumption of vegan content, because sometimes that is also triggering to me, like if it's not abolitionist stuff. So like, for example, like the Animal Justice Party, the political party in Australia that is meant to be about the rights of animals, they're not abolitionists, that's for sure. Or they say they are, and I don't know. But sometimes they're in their posts, they'll do like just weird shit that annoys me, that I think is not really along the lines of veganism, like promoting the lab-grown meat stuff, and like the lady from there, the popular lady, had a t-shirt saying that greyhounds should be, is it like pets, not bets? So she's like promoting having like greyhounds as pets and stuff. I don't know. They do stuff on there that most vegans probably would think is great, or that they don't care. But to us, like to me, it's triggering. So I think as well, like being a strongly abolitionist vegan, it can be even more it can be even more like when it's vegans that are triggering you as well as the non-vegans, that can be a pretty like lonely place and difficult place to be in. So, and I think that's why you probably like watching Sky as well, because he is abolitionist, and like it's nice to be part of a community that is along the same lines.
Yeah. Find your safe space, or like find your community, I guess, to like protect your mental health. Like when I went vegan, the first thing I knew I had to do was meet some vegans. I was like, this is probably going to be quite hard to do this by myself and feeling like I'm the only one. So I'm going to meet some people, and just making that effort to like go out to dinners and meet my future wife. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Like fighting non-vegans and then also like calling out vegans is quite. I get more frustrated with vegans, I must say. Like the people that should know better. Like I can kind of handle naivety and ignorance, but like vegans who should know better, that pisses me off.
Yeah. So that will, and that, like I said, I think that's another reason I limit my vegan content. Because that in itself can be triggering in lots of different ways. But yeah, all right. Well, maybe we should wrap up there. So that was a good discussion, though. It was good. I hope it was helpful. I hope it was. We're a husband-wife duo. We got married like what, a year and a bit, 18 months ago.
Yeah.
But we've been together for like 8 years or something like that.
That's another thing, like mental health. Like if your partner wasn't vegan, I couldn't do it.
No.
Like I genuinely do not understand how people can do that.
Yeah.
Like the person, like surely your partner is supposed to have values that mirror your own, or at least very close.
Yeah.
So to like for that,
I try not. I'm not like.
big.
I agree, but like I'm not judgmental. Like I'm not that judgmental of like vegans in that situation, because I also know that there's various reasons why that can happen. Like sometimes people are already together and then one decides to go vegan, or like it can be very hard as well to find a vegan partner. It can be such a small community, and I don't know. There's just lots of, but yeah, I agree. It would, like, I don't personally think that I could do that. But we were very lucky, I guess. We should do a video about our story. It's not much of a story. We just met at a vegan meetup thing in our city.
The good story part of it is you trying to get me to do like outreach, and
Yeah,
then me not feeling like I kind of understood exactly the abolitionist point, and then trying to
yeah.
like do
I
my
was
own
like,
research and
that was in my phase of like I was just really like doing a deep dive into animal rights philosophy and abolitionism and all that. And I was just talking everyone's ear off, whoever would listen. And yeah, and Mark was kind of newly vegan, I suppose. And I had a stall. I was going to do a stall at the vegan festival and just try and like educate anyone, vegans, non-vegans, about animal rights and abolitionism and all that. And I think I asked Mark to if he wanted to help me with the stall, like be there with me. This was before we were together. And then I decided, oh, actually, I don't think he is really on the same like wavelength as me, like philosophically. So I said I backed out of it. I said, not this time, Mark, not this time.
yeah, I was like grappling with it, I think, because the first kind of groups of people that I met were very like reduce suffering, single issue campaigns. So I was like trying to figure all that out. And I was like, okay, this is this new thing. I don't, yeah, like I'm not completely sold on it. But then I also was like already questioning the single issue campaigns. Like I remember like doing a protest and being like, this is kind of weird. Like protesting horse jumping. Like once they ban it, do we have to come back the next week and protest just the normal racing? Like I was very confused. I was in this like very weird
we had
state.
we had a lot of like before we were together, we had a lot of like heated debates about it, didn't we? You used to annoy the shit out of me. I used to get so annoyed because you would always like challenge me, play devil's advocate and stuff. But it turned into a love story. So
Yeah, now I've learned to state that I'm playing devil's advocate first. Be upfront with that.
all right. Anyway, let's wrap it up there. So thanks for watching,
We're
everyone.
gonna go get some vegan pizza
Are we? We having vegan pizza?
for lunch.
Are we?
Yeah.
Did you get pizza?
No, for my brother's birthday.
Oh, are they having pizza there?
Yeah.
Sweet. Cool. Well, I didn't know that. So now my cup is filled up. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in.